VigilanteWilliamson here with a very simple question, and that is the draft lottery rigged? I say that because it looks like Cooper Flagg, who is the consensus #1 pick, will be going to the Dallas Mavericks, a team that only had a 1.8% chance to get the #1 pick. There's a lot of conspiracies about the draft lottery going back to the New York Knicks back in '85, the first lottery, getting the pick, frozen envelope, allegedly, and Patrick Ewing was the #1 pick, and that helped that franchise. Obviously, a big market for the NBA for years. There's a LeBron James rumor where he leaves Cleveland, and then they get Kyrie, and then they also get a few other #1 picks. One of them was a bust, but one of them turned into Andrew Wiggins, and they traded that guy, or they traded that pick for Kevin Love, helping to build a championship team with that. Then he leaves, and when he gets to LA, he trades for Anthony Davis. Then they get the #1 pick. Turns out to be Zion. Didn't really help them that much. And then now you have this team, a team that traded with LeBron. Similar thing. They traded Luca Doncic, and then they get the #1 pick. So that's another LeBron James-esque conspiracy if you believe in any of these conspiracies. I get it if you don't. You know, not everything is a conspiracy. Not nothing is a conspiracy. And technically, by the way the NBA and all these leagues are legally, there's no laws against them rigging the draft lottery. It's completely legal for the NBA to do so. There are no repercussions for them to face whatsoever legally, because they're an entertainment league. That notwithstanding, the Dallas Mavericks had the #1 pick. More than likely, it's going to be Cooper Flagg. How do you feel as a Mavericks fan? Are you happy? Side question, I kind of touched on it. A lot was made about Luca's trade. Even on this channel, when I said, hey, this is more than likely organized by the ownership and not just a rogue GM, people called me, what was it, a bot? Or no, I was clickbaiting. I was allegedly clickbaiting, and other people have corroborated this, at least anecdotally or through conjecture, that, hey, this ownership group that has ties to gambling wants some legalization of gambling in Texas and or to move to Vegas. Was this pick done to keep them in Texas? I don't know, because obviously I don't think the NBA wants necessarily the Mavericks to be that Vegas team. If they do get a Vegas team, they're still going to want a team in Dallas, and maybe they're trying to prevent that. Now, I don't know, even though I live in Texas, I'm not sure what's going on with the gambling legislation that they wanted passed, so I'm not sure if that had an impact. And again, theoretically, it could have just been the way the ping pong balls fell, but I don't believe that. I believe that the league gave this to the Dallas Mavericks as a means for them to stay in Dallas, and as maybe a thank you for trading Luca to our biggest market, or one of our biggest markets. We'll see what happens with the legislation. Like I said, it could already be in their favor. Could already be out their favor. I'm not an expert on that. But I did want to ask Dallas Mavericks fans, in light of all the controversy with Luca, all the stuff that can be said, are you happy about the trade, or are you still as unhappy about the trade, is a better way of putting it? Because a lot was also made of the way that LA, when they had Luca, lost in the playoffs. A lot was made about Luca being a cone, and you say, well, if one of the reasons he was traded was his conditioning, and we've seen how inconsistent, he's not a terrible defender, he's an inconsistent defender. A lot of reasons they went to the finals last year, the Mavericks did, was because him and Kyrie played good defense at times, but they didn't play it the whole way through because they ended up losing. And there are times where Luca is a good defender, and there's times when Luca is a cone, and a lot of that may indeed be conditioning. So if you look at what happened with Dallas, now with this pick, they obviously get a get out of jail free card, right? But they traded Luca because of his conditioning, and we saw Luca lose on the team that probably should have beat the Timberwolves. I'm not saying they should have necessarily won the whole thing, even though I thought they might. And they did need a center. I don't want to give you, like the LA Lakers were perfectly built. They needed a big, they needed some size, pause. But his defense was definitely there to be questioned. And you look and say, well, was all that, all that ruckus that was made about trading Luca, it's the worst trade ever, it's so terrible, and then he goes out in the playoffs because he can't play defense. It's like, well, how bad was that trade really? You know what I mean? I always thought it was made a bit too much. Granted, I get AD is an injury walking out the front door, and then he ends up injured a good portion of the season, so I understand some of it. But Luca has had a lot of injuries, and maybe his condition does deserve to be questioned. That's not what this video is really about, though. It's a tangent I wanted to toss in. What do you think about the draft lottery? Is it rigged, or you think I'm full of shit? Do you think it's just a coincidence that the Dallas Mavericks get the #1 pick? And how do you feel if you're a Utah fan, man? This was what you were looking for all year. Is Cooper Flag in Utah? There's some reasons you might want Cooper Flag in Utah. You can think about that on your own. Or a Wizards fan, because I don't know what the Wizards are going to do for the future of their franchise. The Hornets. You know, these are teams that could have been a top #1 pick. The Hornets are the only one that still have a top 4 pick. Pelicans don't have a top 4 pick. The Sixers ended up with one. Let me just go about the lottery. It's the Mavericks, then the Spurs, who weren't necessarily in position to get the #2 pick, and their team looks like they're building something down there with the way the draft is going. Obviously, with them having Wemby, so we got Dallas, the Spurs, the Sixers, and then the Hornets, then the Jazz. Welcome to the party, pal. That's what kept happening to the Pistons. We kept getting the 5th pick, which is basically, hey, you're the worst team, but we don't want you to get a top 4 pick, so enjoy being number 5. So that's what happened to the Jazz. I'm sure they're pissed. As well they should be. And this defeats the purpose. Get rid of the lottery. Should the lottery be gotten rid of? The whole idea behind the lottery is to stop tanking, right? You're not stopping tanking, 1. 2, you're also not doing the whole point of having a draft system where the bad teams get good picks to help them rebuild. The way the lottery is built, you can get unlucky a few years and just suffer and be the Washington Wizards and just be perpetually bad, never get a #1 pick that can change your franchise, because there's no guarantee you'll ever get the pick. The Jazz and the Wizards may never be good again. I mean, obviously that's an exaggeration. They will be good again. That's just not how sports works. But the way the draft lottery is, especially if I'm right and this is rigged and the powers that be have no need for a Utah or Washington or whatever franchise, of Pelicans, to get a #1 pick again, they don't get a #1 pick. They don't get a #1 pick, and they're just stuck. So, should the lottery even exist? I know I'm asking a lot of questions to the people. You guys let me know what you think. 1, is this rigged? 2, should the lottery be abolished if it is rigged? 3, kind of a bonus question. What do you think about that Luca trade now, given everything that's happened in the playoffs? And D, if you're one of the teams aggrieved or rewarded, how do you feel? If you're a Jazz fan, how do you feel? If you're a Mavericks fan, how do you feel? Etc. Any other franchise that feel like, man, we had a chance to get a #1 pick or a good pick and we lost out on it. What are you thinking? Again, should the lottery even exist if it's not even going to reward? Which you can have your own things about rewarding bad teams, but the whole point is to keep the league moving. Now you have a situation where teams could be stagnated forever. So you tell me what you think. Peace.